Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Eruvin Tzadik Zayin. Let's start from Tzadik Vav on the base, 2 lines from the bottom. Rabbi Yehuda told us if one finds tcheles, blue wool, sitting out in the street, he can use it for his tzitzis, provided that it's formed and shaped in a manner which indicates that it was intended for tzitzis. We don't suspect that perhaps he decided to fashion his ordinary threads in a manner which is suitable for tzitzis, because why would he exert himself? Why would he be matriach himself to do so unnecessarily? Says the Gemara 2 lines from the bottom, Elo marava, torach v'le torach tanai. This question of whether or not one would exert himself unnecessarily is actually subject of a machlekes tanoim, the sanya, hamaitze tefillin machnison zug. If one finds tefillin sitting out in the field, he wears them into town, one pair at a time. Echad ish, echad isha. A man or a woman both have this privilege. Echad chadashos, echad yishanos, divrei meir. So according to Rabbi Meir, whether this tefillin is new or old, so new would mean that there's no indication that these straps were ever tied in a manner suitable for tefillin, making this kesher, the dalad, the yud, in which case perhaps it's not even tefillin. No, we don't suspect that it's anything other than tefillin. So whether they're new or old, you can go ahead and wear them into town. Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler b'chadashos umater b'yishanos. He says, when you have an indication that it is indeed a tefillin, you see the marks in the straps, that they were actually knotted into the appropriate shape, the form suitable for tefillin. You have the dalad, the yud, embedded, marked into the straps. So you see it was used for tefillin, that's yishanos, then you can wear them. But if it's chadashos, they're new straps, meaning you don't have an indication that they were ever tied in a manner fit for tefillin, then you cannot wear them. We're concerned perhaps they're not even tefillin. He fashioned his amulet, designed it like tefillin. Alma, apparently, mar savar tarach inish. Rabbi Yehuda holds that a person might unnecessarily exert himself, in this case to fashion his amulet to look like a tefillin. Umar savar lo tarach inish, whereas Rabbi Meir holds there's no such concern. We don't suspect that it's anything other than tefillin. Why would a person exert himself and design his amulet to look like tefillin? Therefore, whether it's new or old, we can safely assume that it's tefillin. And Rabbi Elazar's halacha conforms with Rabbi Meir. Continues the Gemara, V'hashta Tani Avod Shmuel bar Yitzchak. Now that the father of Shmuel bar Yitzchak taught us another pshat in this brayso. What is the definition of chadashos and yishanos? As follows: Eloin yishanos. What do we mean when we say tefillin yishanos? Kol sheyesh ben ritzuos u mikusharis. That the boxes have straps affixed to them, and they're also knotted. They have their knots in them. The dal, the yud. So all you need to do is just slip it on yourself and wear it. So you can do that on Shabbos. And that's why Rabbi Yehuda says you can wear them, because you're going to wear them properly, the way you wear them during the weekdays. Chadashos means yesh b'm ritzuos, although there are straps here, but v'lo mikusharis, they're not knotted. There's no dal, there's no yud there. And therefore Rabbi Yehuda says, if you find these tefillin on Shabbos, you can't wear them into town because it's a load. It's a maso if you're not going to wear it the way it's meant to be worn, with that kesher embedded. And that kesher you can't do on Shabbos. As Rashi explains, it's a permanent knot, which is an av melacha. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says, well, if you find old tefillin, meaning with the knots intact, then just slip it on and wear it. But if they're chadashos, meaning there are no knots there, then you have to just leave them. Because if you would wear them, if you just strap it on yourself, and it's in a manner which is not reminiscent of the weekday carrying, then it's considered to be a masa. We don't view it as a malbush, as a tachshit. That is shitas Rabbi Yehuda. Whereas Rabbi Meir holds that even when there are no knots intact, he says you can still wear it. Explains the Ritva. Why? Because fine, just tie it on loosely without making a permanent knot. So even though it's not kosher for tefillin, you must have a permanent knot for it to be suitable for tefillin, to be yotze the mitzvah. But on Shabbos, it's still considered to be a malbush if you would just tie it onto yourself loosely, using a temporary loose knot. That's the point of the machlekes to remain Rabbi Yehuda. But all agree that there's no reason to suspect that these things are anything other than tefillin. The kuli amalei tarach inish, all would agree that a person doesn't unnecessarily exert himself, fashion his amulet to look like tefillin. The point of machlekes between Rami and Rabbi Yehuda is unrelated to that question. Of course it's tefillin. The question is, can a person wear tefillin on Shabbos when there are no knots there? Can he just loosely attach it to himself and wear it like that? Yes, according to Rabbi Meir, and no, according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Lezer's halacha, which is based on the fact that a person wouldn't unnecessarily exert himself, is consistent with both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. Says the Gemara, okay, you can't go ahead and form those knots on Shabbos. But what about making a bow? V'liyan vinhu mi'anav. Let him just make a bow. Why should we just say new tefillin unsuitable to be worn on Shabbos? Because you can't make that knot, which is a permanent knot. What about a bow? Amar Rav Chizda zoyse meris. Apparently, the Brisa here is coming to teach us that aniva psula b'tefillin, that a bow is unsuitable for tefillin. It's not considered to be a kesher. A bow is not a knot. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says there's no option on Shabbos. There's no way to address these tefillin which are chadashes, don't have a knot, because you can't make the knot, nor can you make even a bow, because a bow doesn't qualify as a kesher shel tefillin. And if you wear it in any manner which is other than the way these tefillin are meant to be worn during weekdays, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's considered to be a masoi, and it cannot be done on Shabbos. Abaye Omar, he says a different pshat. He says, although perhaps a bow is considered to be qualified for tefillin to be considered a kesher, the problem is that it's Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda l'tamei. Rabbi Yehuda goes along with his shita. The Amar niva kshira ma'al yasei. Rabbi Yehuda holds that a bow is considered to be a proper knot. It's a kesher. So although aniva is kasher for tefillin, to be yaitz the mitzvah, but it can't be done on Shabbos because he's forming a knot. Points out Tosfos that apparently Rabbi Meir holds that a knot formed using a bow is not considered to be a kesher for Shabbos. Therefore, Meir would hold that even new tefillin are not problematic. So although he can't form a permanent knot, he just forms a aniva, a bow, which can be done on Shabbos, and he wears it into town in that manner. Says the Gemara, okay, now let's proceed with tefillin, with another aspect of Hilchas tefillin. So you're telling me that perhaps a bow is suitable for the kesher shel tefillin, just the contrary, you can't do it on Shabbos. Taima, da'aniva kshira ma'al yasahi. So the problem is only because aniva, forming a bow, constitutes a proper knot, which can't be done on Shabbos. Halav hachi. But if not for that concern, anivlu, he can go ahead and bow the tefillin, wear it using it in aniva. Is that suitable? Does that constitute a proper kesher? V'amar Rav Yehuda brei. Did Rav Shmuel bar Shilas mishmei de Rav? So he quoted Rav as follows: Kesher shel tefillin halacha l'Moshe Mesinayu. The way we make the kesher shel tefillin, we form it into a dalet. We form it into a yud. That was brought down from Moshe, from Sinai. V'amar Rav Nachman v'noyehen levar. Their beauty, meaning the actual lettering, should be visible from the outside to the observer. So you need to conform to certain designs here. You have to make a dalet. A bow doesn't accomplish that. Says the more, perhaps it does. The anav lehu can't shira the two. He's going to bow it. He's going to form an aniva in a manner which conforms to the proper knot design. He's going to form a bow like a dalet, like a yud. Therefore, it will be kosher for tefillin. Okay, so in conclusion, we had a machlekes in Rabbi Yehuda regarding salvaging new tefillin on Shabbos. According to Rabbi Meir, you can. According to Rabbi Yehuda, cannot. What is the svara? What is the machlekes here? So the way the Gemara initially figured, machlekes was, the way the Ritva was masber, that What happened is we're missing the kasha. We don't have the knots here, and that can't be done on Shabbos. So Rameya says, well, just put it on loosely, and that's okay. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, unless it's properly knotted and worn in a manner which you wear it during weekdays, it's not considered to be properly worn, and it's considered to be like a load. According to the next portion of the Gemara, you can go ahead and make a bow, according to Rameir, which is considered to be a proper knot. It's kosher for tefillin. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can't do that because creating a bow on Shabbos is tantamount to forming a knot, which is a melacha. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rav Chizda Amar Rav. Halakech tefillin. We're speaking about a wholesaler who purchases a supply of tefillin. Mimi she'enoi mumcha, from one who is not known as an expert. He hasn't established a reputation for himself. Now Tosfos points out that lechatchila, we're not meant to buy from a person who's not an expert, doesn't have an established reputation. But if a person does proceed to do so, he purchases a supply of tefillin from this fellow. So the next option is to go ahead and do bedika, check them, open them up, check the parsha, see if they're kosher. So as you proceed, says the Gemara, boidik shtayim shal yad v'achas shal rosh. He needs to be boidik 3 units in order to establish a chazaka, to establish the reputation, expertise of the supplier. He needs to go ahead and check through 3 individual boxes of tefillin, and he must mix them up, some shal yad and some shal rosh. So he does either 2 of the shal yad and 1 of the shal rosh, or alternatively, shtayim shal rosh v'achas shal yad, 2 of the shal rosh and 1 of the shal yad. So a total of 3, but he must have some and some. Says the Gemara, Marashach, what do you mean? How does this work? If you assume that a wholesaler purchases from one supplier, so you got it from one sefer, so fine, he needs to make a bedika to establish a chazak. Livdoik oy shalosh shal yad, oy shalosh shal rosh. Let him check either 3 of the shal yad or 3 of the shal rosh. What's the point of alternating 2 of this and 1 of the other one? So that's if he purchases from one supplier. If you assume that he purchases from 2 or 3 people, meaning that each tefillin could be coming from a different supplier, from a different sefer, then in that case, kol chad v'chad liboy b'dika, each individual tefillin needs to be checked. You can't establish chazaka by checking 1 pair and apply that chazaka to the other pair, which was purchased perhaps from a different supplier. Says the Gemara, let's assume that he took it from 1 supplier. Therefore, he needs to establish a chazaka by checking 3 tefillin. Why does he have to go some shal yad, some shal rosh? He needs to become established. The expertise needs to be verified regarding shal yad and shal rosh. There are different types of tefillin, different types of parshas. So although it's 3 in total, but you must mix and match some of the shal yad and some shal rosh, and they combine together to create a chazaka. Says Mo'eni, is that so? That you must mix and match? V'atani, Rabbi Shmuel taught us a brayso. Bit tefillin. When it comes to checking tefillin, how do you proceed? Boidik shalosh shal yad v'shal rosh. You check 3 shal yad and shal rosh. My love, doesn't he mean to say oy shalosh shal yad? Either or, either 3 of the yad, oy shalosh shal rosh. There's no need to mix and match. No. Shalosh mehen. Shalish, he checks 3. Mehen shal yad, mehen shal rosh. So it's a total of 3. Some of the 3 are the shal yad, and some of the shal rosh. He must mix and match to establish expertise on the shal yad and the shal rosh. Says the Gemara, V'atani Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana taught us a brayso. But tefillin, when it comes to checking tefillin, boidik shtayim shal yad v'shal rosh. He checks 2, merely 2. 1 shal yad and 1 shal rosh. So here we have a numerical problem. Is it 3, like we said earlier, or is it merely 2? How does that work? Says it's more very simple. Hamani Rebbe. This brayso of Kahana, which cites the number 2, is following Shittas Rebbe. The Amar Paterizim, the Chazaka. He holds that generally speaking, to establish a chazaka, 2 is sufficient. So it's just a local question of how much a chazaka is. It's not a general tefillin. It's not a general tefillin question. It's just a chazaka issue. According to Rebbe, chazaka is 2. According to the Rabbanon, chazaka is 3. Says the Rebbe, if we're following Rebbe, he must seifa. Let's proceed to the seifa of this brisa that we just begun. Rav Kahana began teaching us. Let's proceed to the seifa. V'chein b'tzvas hasheni, v'chein b'tzvas hashlishi. You go ahead and check 2 tefillin. Same thing in the second bundle. Same thing in the third bundle. So if he has lots of bundles, each bundle needs to be checked. How much? 2 tefillin in each bundle to go ahead and make a chazaka for that bundle. Says the Gemara, well, according to Rebbe, a chazaka is just 2. Why do you have to go ahead and check the third bundle? Vi Rebbe, shlishi mi islay? According to Rebbe, why would you have to go to a third? Right? So according to Rebbe, 2 has already established a chazaka. So why would the Brisa tell us that you check 2 tefillins, 2 boxes, in the first bundle, do the same in the second bundle, do the same in the third bundle? Apparently working with the concept of chazaka. So 3 bundles checked allows you to go ahead and use all the other bundles. Now, according to Rebbe, merely 2 has already accomplished chazaka. Says the Gemara, no. Moide Rebbe. Certainly Rebbe would agree with tzvasim. When it comes to these bundles, the mitzreit lasa gavri zavin, that he purchased from 2-3 people. Meaning, there's no connection between one bundle and the other. You purchased it from 3 different suppliers. So what happened was he purchased a bundle from each supplier. And he has to go ahead and establish the chazaka for that bundle, for that supplier. How does he do that? Checking 2 tefillin, 1 shal yad, 1 shal rosh, per bundle, establishes the expertise, the chazaka for that bundle, from that supplier. And therefore he needs to repeat this over and over. Each bundle is a separate entity, coming from a different supplier. And a chazaka needs to be established per bundle. Says the Gemara, okay, then why stop at 3? Go to 4, 5, 6. You have to go and check every single bundle because they're unrelated to each other. Each one's from a different supplier. How does the chazaka of one bundle affect the other? If that's the case, even the 4th and the 5th need to be checked. And you're right. The fact that the Brisa uses the word shlishi is merely to highlight this point, to tell us that we're meant to go past, beyond the chazaka, meaning according to Rebbe, 2 has already established chazaka, but the point here is that chazaka will only be established per bundle, because the bundles are coming from different suppliers. That's what the Brisa is simply pointing out, that you can't stop at 2, meaning, let's say you purchase 5 bundles from 5 different suppliers. So you take the first bundle, take out a shayad, shal rosh. They're good, fine. Now you've established chazaka for this bundle. This supplier is considered to be muchzak b'kashrus. You can use the entire bundle. Proceed to the next bundle, do the same. But you can't stop there. You have to go to the third one as well, because the fact that you've established the chazaka for the first and second bundles doesn't affect the third bundle, which was purchased from a different supplier. That's all the Brisa is pointing out. You have to go past number 2. You have to go to 3, but certainly when you're done with 3, you have to continue to 4 and 5 as well, because they're totally unrelated to each other. Certainly, of course, you have to check the 4th and the 5th one as well. Okay, so what did we learn? That if a person purchases tefillin from a person who is not a mumcha, you have to go ahead and do bedika to verify the kashas of the tefillin. So whatever you purchase from the same supplier goes into the same, it's considered to be is viewed in one context, and the chazaka needs to be established for that group, for that bundle, etc., that you purchased from that supplier. You need to repeat that process with the tefillin purchased from the next supplier. Now, how do you establish chazaka? Gemara tells us you have to mix and match. You have to establish chazaka for shal yad and for shal rosh. How many boxes of tefillin do you need to check? That depends on the general question of how much a chazaka is. According to Rebbe, 2, meaning just 1 shal yad and 1 shal rosh is sufficient. According to Rabbanan, you have to check a total of 3. So either 2 shal yad and 1 shal rosh, or 2 shal rosh and 1 shal yad. Continues the Gemara. Matzan tzvasam ekrichos. So the Mishnah told us if you find tefillin out in the field, you wear it in one pair at a time. And if you found them as tzvasim or krichos, you just stay out there till it gets dark and then bring them in. Says the Gemara, my tzvasim, my krichos, what exactly do these words mean? What is tzvasim? What is krichos? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Heinen tzvasim, heinen krichos. They're both very similar. Bundles of tefillin. Difference is, tzvasim zavi, meaning it's a bundle of tefillin, but they're pairs of tefillin tied together. So you have a bundle with a bunch of pairs in this bundle. Krichos means the krichon tuva. You have lots of tefillin just bundled up with each other, not separated into pairs. And the Mishnah tells us, if you find them in this manner, machshech alein mavion, you just wait out until it gets dark and bring them in. Why? Lailinu. Zug, why don't you carry them in? Wearing them one pair at a time. Amar Yitzchak Rabbi Yehuda, l'didi mifarshali minei da'aba. My father of Yehuda explained to me, kol she'ilu machnisan zug. Let's say you don't have that many pairs of tefillin there. There are just a few that, if you would wear them in one pair at a time, the kolis, koidem shkes achama, they would be completed before shkia, meaning you have enough time to wear them in one pair at a time prior to nightfall. Then machnisan zug. Certainly you carry them in, wearing them one pair at a time. V'iloi, but otherwise, meaning you have too many tefillin there. In which case, there's no point in wearing them in one pair at a time, because in any case you have to go back and bring the rest in after Shabbos is over. So in that case, there's no allowance to wear them in. Just wait out there until it gets dark, and just bring them in Matzah Shabbos. In a time of danger, you just cover them and continue walking. We learned in the Brisa, in a time of danger, you carry them incrementally, less than 4 amas at a time. Rashi explains this as picking them up, carrying them 4 amas, stopping to rest, and then proceeding another bit less than 4 amas at a time. And that's how the Brisa instructs us to do. How is this consistent with the Mishnah? Amarav Kasha, the answer is very simple. Ha b'sakanas nachri, ha b'sakanas listim. It depends on account of what danger. The Mishnah is speaking about sakanas nachri. There was danger due to a decree from the authorities, gzeira, they didn't allow us to wear tefillin. In that case, don't interact with these tefillin at all. Just cover them up and continue walking. The Brisa is speaking about sakanas listim, when there's danger due to robbers. Meaning, we're speaking that there are lots of pairs of tefillin here. Mishnah told us in that case, you just wait until it gets dark and then bring them in. But when there are robbers out there, and he's afraid of staying out there until nightfall, in that case, pick them up, carry them 4 amas, less than 4 amas at a time. Amalei Abai. So Abai responded to Rav. How have you established our Mishnah? What's the context of this sakana in our Mishnah? That tells them simply to cover it and move on. But sakanas over the gelulim. A sakana on account of the authorities. Therefore, he's exempt, he just covers them and proceeds. If that's the case, let's take a look at the next part of the Mishnah. This was the Tanakama. But what does Reb Shimon say? Reb Shimon, he lines up a bunch of friends and hands them from one person to the next, less than 4 amas at a time. And that's the way he brings it into town. Now, if we're speaking about Gzeiras Shmat, that there's a decree from the Goyim not to wear tefillin, not to interact with tefillin, how is that a solution? Koshkin, certainly it's problematic. The Av Shemilsa is creating a scene, lining up people. It certainly is going to place him in danger, in greater danger. Says the Gemara Chesurim, Hechser Bachitani. We meant to learn the Mishnah is always missing some words. And this is how we meant to learn. When is this said? This meaning that you cover the tefillin and just leave them alone. B'sakanas of the gelulim. When there's a sakanas hashmad, a decree on account of the authorities. So, he doesn't interact with the tefillin at all, just cover them up to protect them from bizayin and just keep on walking. So, there's no machlekes when it comes to that context. Aval b'sakanas listim, however, when the danger is on account of robbers. So we're speaking that there are lots of tefillin here, and generally we advise him just to wait out there until nightfall, but he's afraid to do so due to the presence of robbers in the area. In that case, the Mishnah says, meant to carry them less than 4 amas at a time. That's the Shita of the Tanakama. On that comes Reb Shimon, and he says, Reb Shimon Omer, rather than carrying them less than 4 amos at a time, line up some friends, pass it from one person to the next. That's the proper solution. But my comiflagi, what's the point and basis of their machlokes? Says the Gemara, Mar Savar, the Tanna Kama holds, Pachis Mar Ba'amis Adif. For a person himself to carry the tefillin less than 4 amos at a time, that's the preferred method. Why? If you advise him to hand it to his friend, and his friend to his friend, and so on, Avsha Milsa the Shabbos. It's going to create a scene which negates the Kedusha and the covet of Shabbos. Lots of people lined up carrying something a long distance. That's a negation to the covet Shabbos. We prefer that a person himself carries it incrementally, less than 4 amos at a time, privately, quietly. Don't do it in this public manner. So that's the Tanna Kama prefers the Pachis Mar Ba'amis route. Omar Savar. However, Shimon holds just the opposite. Passing it from one person to the next, that's preferred. Because if you suggest that a person himself carries it less than 4 amos at a time, you know what can happen? Zimin on occasion, the Lavatay, you won't pay attention. He may actually come to carry it 4 full amos in Shesarabim. So leaving it just with one person to take care of can result in pitfall, in confusion, in actually doing a malacha. Rather, line up some people, pass it from one person to the next to avoid this confusion. Now, as Tosfos points out, of course, even if Shimon would agree that if there are no people there to create this arrangement, of course, even if Shimon would agree that a person himself can carry it less than 4 amos at a time, he just maintains that that arrangement is preferred and superior because it avoids any confusion. The Mishnah continued, V'chein b'noi. The same halacha likewise applies to one's son, one's infant. B'noi mai b'yahasam. What's his baby doing out in the field? That he needs to be carried in this manner or that. Says the Gemara, Devei Menashe Tana, and the Beis Medrash of Menashe learned the Brisa, V'she'al dasa Yom Besada was speaking that his mother gave birth to him out in the field, and they need to transport him back into town to keep him healthy and safe. So here as well, Tanna Kama holds, the preferred manner is less than 4 amos at a time. The person himself should just carry him incrementally, whereas Reb Shimon prefers using a lineup, as we mentioned earlier. Umay afilu heimeya. Mishnah says when it comes to this baby, they transport him from person to person, even if we have 100 people. Afilu heimeya. What's the afilu? What's the chiddush here? The answer is the afagav the kashi layoda. Even though we have multitudes, you have 100 people here, and he's being passed from one hand to the other, which is a bit difficult for the child. Afilu hachiv and so hadifa. This is the preferred manner. Again, this is Reb Shimon speaking. Do it this way, which will certainly avoid malacha, rather than the other way, which can result in a person doing a malacha. So in summary, if one finds tefillin on Shabbos, if it's just one pair or several pairs, you bring them in, wearing them one pair at a time. If he encounters a sakana on account of goyim, the authorities, a decree, a shmad, then just leave them alone, cover them up, protect them, and continue walking. If he finds lots of tefillin, tzvos and krichos, these bundles, in which case he knows he's not going to have enough time to wear them in one at a time before Shabbos is over. So just wait out there until it gets dark and bring them after Shabbos. If he's concerned about sakonis listim on account of robbers, we have 2 shittas. According to Tanna Kama, he should carry them in incrementally, less than 4 amos at a time. That's the preferred manner. According to Reb Shimon, he has a different preference. He says, line up some people, pass it from one person to the other, do it that way, rather than he himself carrying less than 4 amos at a time, which may result in him actually carrying 4 amos, which involves and entails a malacha d'oraisa. Continues the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda gave us another example of this halacha. If you have a person stuck out somewhere in an area where he doesn't have water, so he's desperate for water, says Rabbi Yehuda, you can go ahead and take a barrel filled with water, line up some people, pass it from one person to the other, and this is on Shabbos. So you can pass it less than 4 amos at a time until you get to that person, even if you end up transporting this barrel with water out of the tchum. And the Chacham disagreed. They said, no, you can't transport things beyond the boundary of its owner. That's the halacha of tchum. Things must remain within the boundary of 2,000 am of the person and his belongings. So now we'll analyze the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chacham. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of the halacha that a person's belongings are meant to remain within his own personal boundary. For Rabbi Yehuda hadasnan, the halacha that we learned in the Mishnah, which says, animal utensils, are meant to remain within the boundary of its owner. We're speaking about pouring the water from barrel to barrel. Meaning, he takes a barrel, passes it to his friend, the friend to his friend. Once it gets to the point where the barrel can't proceed further because that's the boundary of the barrel which belongs to this owner, whose boundary ends here, then you stop right there. You take the barrel, pour the water into another barrel. And that barrel, which can be transported further, is transported until that barrel's boundary. And then you pour it to the next boundary, etc. So you never actually take the barrel out of its confined area. Says the Gemara, again, my skin was speaking, you spill the water, you pour it from barrel to barrel. So you never actually transport the barrel out of its territory. Now what about the water itself? How can you transport the water out of the tchum? No problem. Rabbi Yehuda Tamei, Rabbi Yehuda follows his shita, the Amar, Mayim ein ben mamish. Water is not tangible. It's not something which has importance and doesn't have to conform to the halachos of tchum. Where do we know that from? The Snan. We learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda poitu b'mayim, v'pnei she'ein ben mamish. Mishnah there is speaking about a woman who formed her dough using water or salt. So this water and salt was taken from her friend. The Chacham hold, Tanakama there holds that this dough can't be transported out of the tchum of the owner of either the flour or the oil or the water or the salt, because all these ingredients must remain within the tchum. Rabbi Yehuda says when it comes to water, you don't have to conform to the boundary of its owner. Why? Water doesn't have importance, it's not tangible. And therefore, here as well, in our case, you can just transport that water as far as you want until you get to that person who needs it. So Rabbi Yehuda here is not speaking about the barrel, which certainly has to remain within the territory of its owner, but the water can be transported beyond, doesn't have significance, doesn't have importance, does not have to be bound to the tchum of its owner. Whereas the Chacham disagree. They say not only does the barrel have to remain within boundaries, the water as well is bound to the tchum of its owner. So if that's the case, the Rabbanu responded to Rabbi Yehuda and he said, Lo sahalech zu, this meaning the barrel that Rabbi Yehuda was referring to, this barrel shouldn't be taken beyond the boundary of its owner. Now we're not speaking about the barrel. All agree the barrel remains behind. So why the Rabbanan saying Lo sahalech zu? No, this shouldn't be taken beyond the boundary. Umayid Lo sahalech zu. Says the Gemara, they meant the water. Lo yahalech masheh bezu. The thing contained in this barrel, I mean the water, shouldn't be transported yosim regla bailam past the boundary of the owner. Says, well, really, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can take any water and transport it beyond the boundary of its owner? Is that the case? When did we hear that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't bind the water to the owner's boundary? When the water is absorbed in a dough, so it's not tangible, it's not visible. Yeah, then it's bottle. We don't have to reckon with it. But when the water is actually here, it's visible, it's tangible, it's not absorbed in anything. In that case as well, Rabbi Yehuda holds it's not bound by tchum. How do you know that? If anything, just the opposite. We know clearly that according to Rabbi Yehuda, it would be bound by the tchum of the owner. How do we know that? Because even when it's in a dish, Rabbi Yehuda maintains that the water is not bottle, it's there, it's tangible, has to be reckoned with. When it's actually here, it's not even contained in a dish. It's just plain water. You're going to suggest that it's bottle? The Sanya, as we find in the Bryce, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Mayim u'melach b'tel be'isa. Water and salt are bottle in a dough, as we mentioned earlier, doesn't have to be reckoned with any longer because it's bottle in the dough. But that's only by a dough. Ve'ein b'tel b'kedera. They're not bottle when they're in a dish. Because the liquid that's there, that's present, it's tangible. Of course, the water and the salt have to be reckoned with. So this is Rabbi Yehuda speaking. Even when it's already contained in a dish, it's still there and has to be reckoned with. Of course, when it's just plain water in a barrel, it's bound by the tchum of the owner. So that pshat is off the table. Elam Arava, you must say as follows. The Mishnah is speaking about a case, a unique case. Hacha b'chavis shekansa shvisa. Speaking about a barrel that attained shvisa. So it was around during Ben Hashmashos, and it attained the boundary of its owner. It can be taken out of the tchum. Okay, that's a given. U'mayim shleikona shvisa askinan. So he's speaking about the chavis that was koine shvisa, but the water here was not koine shvisa. Rashi says it's a spring, a river which is on the move, which is flowing during Ben Hashmashos. So it never attained, it was never koine shvisa. What happens then is that whoever picks it up just takes it wherever he can go. So we're speaking about a barrel which has shvisa, which is bound by a tchum, but the water within it is not bound by any tchum. Rabbi Yehuda maintains that in this case, the batla chavetz legabe mayim, chavetz, which is merely a container for the water within it, is bottle. It's secondary to the water within it because it's servicing that water. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda maintains just as the water is not bound by a tchum, the barrel as well is not bound by a tchum. And that's the pshat Rabbi Yehuda. And apparently the Chacham disagree. They hold that we don't apply this logic. So although the water is not bound, but the chavetz is and cannot be taken past the tchum. Where do we find such a concept that one thing, a container, for instance, is bottled to its content? A person transports a living person in a bed. So just as he's potter for transporting the living person from Sh'yachar Sh'Sarabim, we discussed this in the Gemara Shabbos, is a concept of Chai Noisias Atzma, a living person lifts himself a bit, makes himself lighter, so he contributes to the lifting process, to the transporting process, and he's not considered like an ordinary object, and there's no malachavitzah there. So just as he's potter for carrying the living person, what about the bed that he's holding? But since that bed is servicing the person on the bed, it's bottled to the person. And if he's potter on account of the person, he's potter on account of the bed as well. Potter afalamita, he's potter for transporting the bed from Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because the bed is tafel, is secondary, subordinate to the person. There's no chiv haitzah on the person, certainly not on the bed, which is merely there to service the person. Another example, if a person carries out from Sh'yachar food which has less than the prescribed volume for chiv haitzah, a small amount of eichel, but he carries it in a kli. Potter afal kli. Not only is he potter on account of the small amount of food, which is not sufficient to be considered a malacha, but he's potter on the kli itself, because the kli here as well is tafel to the food within it. So applying that logic to our Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda will say that just as the water itself doesn't have tchum, because it was coming from a flowing river, which was not koine shvisa, likewise the barrel, which is servicing that water, does not have dini shvisa, and can be transported out of the tchum. Again, we're speaking about a case of necessity, a person stuck out in the wilderness without drink, and we line up some people on Shabbos, we transport this barrel less than 4 hours at a time, and the chiddush here is, not only can you do that, but you can actually take it out of the tchum to help that person. Masif Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef asked a kasha on this approach. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, this is apparently a brisa, where Rabbi Yehuda tells us, B'shayara, Noisen Adam Chavis L'Chaverei V'Chaver L'Chaverei. When can you employ this method of handling this barrel from one person to the next? It's only B'shayara. When it involves people in a caravan, this group of people traveling, Rashi says, there are nusinheim. It's not their fault. They have no water. it's a time of great necessity. So this group of people can benefit from this method. You can pass them the water in this manner. B'shayara in, apparently only when it's involving a shayara, a time of great necessity. But just ordinarily when it's not involving a shayara, you can't do that. And our Mishnah seems to say that you can do it for any type of necessity, not only strictly a shayara. Elam Rav Yosef kitnan nami masnisim b'shayara tanan. Indeed, our Mishnah, which allows transporting this water in the barrel out of the tchum, also speaking in a case where there was a shayara, this caravan, group of people traveling, and for this great necessity, Rabbi Yehuda would allow, applying this logic that the barrel is bottled to the water, etc., and you can go ahead and transport it out of the tchum. So according to Rabbi Yosef, this halacha strictly pertained to a case of shayara. Abaye Omar, he says no. He says, look, our Mishnah is not limited. This halacha is not limited to shayara. B'shayara, you should know if it's a shayara, then we even allow a greater leniency. Afilu chavish shekon shrisisa, u'mayim shekon shrisisa. Abaye maintains like this. Okay, so this halacha applies to a shayara. Okay, but a shayara even has a greater leniency. That even when the chavis and the water have shrisa, so we're speaking about water which was stationary during Bein Hashmashis, which acquired its boundary of 2,000 amma. Even when both elements, the barrel and the water, are bound by territory, by boundaries, you can still transport it out of the tchum if it is in the context of a shayara, a case of great necessity. Rabbi Yehuda would allow it even in the case when the water and the chavis are being taken out of their boundaries. Shaloi b'shayara. However, in a case where it doesn't involve a shayara, a person is thirsty, sitting out in the open, but it's not a shayara. It's not a situation which involves travelers who ended up without water. It's not such a desperate situation. In that case, we don't allow to that extent. In that case, we would allow it in a more limited fashion. In a case where, although the barrel was kind of shvisa, but as long as the water within it was not kind of shvisa, then we apply the logic we mentioned earlier that the chavis is bottled to the water and can be transported to that thirsty person sitting out in the open. So, again, according to Rav Yosef, he has a right from a brisa that this halacha only applies to shayara. Therefore, he says, when the chavis was kind of shvisa, but the water wasn't, we say the chavis is bottled to the water and can be transported out of the tchum. That's only when it's a case of shayara. Abaye comes to add, he says, look, I agree that in the case of shayara, we allow lots of leniencies. Even to the extent that we allow transporting a chavis and water when they were both kohen shvisa. You can take them out of the tchum to bring them to the desperate shayara sitting out in the open. When it comes to a non-shayara situation, just a ordinary person who is in great need of water, then we allow some leniency, not to the extent of the shayara, but we allow in a case where, although the chavis had shvisa, but since the water within it did not have shvisa, it was drawn from flowing water, which never had shvisa. In this case, we say that the barrel is bottled with content and can be transported together with the water out of the tchum for the sake of this person. So basically, Rav Yosef and Abaye are going along with Rav's pshat that was speaking in a case where the chavis was kind of shvisa, the water wasn't. Just different interpretations on how to apply the halacha. According to Rav Yosef, that only applies to shayara, whereas according to Abaye, that applies even to a non-shayara situation. In the case of a shayara, he says, you would allow it even if the chavis and the water were kind of shvisa. And Rav Ashi Amar, he has another approach to the machlekes and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. How could Rabbi Yehuda allow the chavis, the water, to be transported out of the tchum? Hacha b'chavis, the hefka askinan was speaking, the barrel was hefka, ownerless. Who mind the hefka askinan? The water as well was ownerless. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, something of hefka is not kind of shvisa and can be transported freely. That's the pshat of Rabbi Yehuda. Who are the ones that disagreed with Rabbi Yehuda? Uman amruloi. Who is the amruloi, the ones that responded to him, that don't allow this to take place? Rabbi Yochanan Nurihi. It's that shita. The amar chefze hefker kind of shvisa, even something which is hefker, is koine shvisa and is bound by a 2,000 amma radius. So that's the Rabbana responding to Rabbi Yehuda. Amr loy, they told him, loy sahalech zu yoisim ragli bala. This can't be taken outside of the boundary of its owner. 1 second, we're not speaking about an owner, we're speaking on hefker. It says, what do you mean? It shouldn't be taken out of the territory of the owner. There's no owner, we're speaking on hefker. It says, well, you know what it means? These things shouldn't be transported. This barrel, this water, shouldn't be transported past the boundary that a kli that has a balam is bound to. Meaning, just because it's hefker, it doesn't have its own halacha, doesn't get special privileges, it can't be transported beyond the shear that a kli that is owned by somebody can be transported. Hefker is just like something which is owned and is bound by a tchum of 2,000 amma. So, conclusion, we learned that according to Rabbi Yehuda, a person can take a barrel, give it over to your friend to his friend, each one carrying less than 4 amas. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, even if it's going to go past the tchum, we have 3 approaches to understand Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda's approach was that we're speaking about a barrel which was koine shvisa, but the water within it was not. And this applies to a unique case of a shayara, group of people, travelers, who was left stranded without water. Rashi says they are nusin. They're not held at fault for their lack of water, and therefore we allow the special allowance transport this barrel with the water, and we say that the barrel is bottled to the water within it, and just as the water has no tchum limitations, likewise the barrel can be transported with the water outside of the tchum. Abaye says, a shayara, in that case we allow even if the barrel and the water have shvisa. There's a special leniency for the shayara. If it's a case where the barrel has shvisa but the water doesn't, in that case we would allow it even for a non-shayara situation. Rav Ashi's approach is, we speak about hefker. The barrel and water are both hefker. And the point of machlokes here is that according to Rabbi Yehuda, hefker does not have shvisa, therefore can be transported freely. But according to Rabbanon, even something of hefker has shvisa and is bound to a 2,000 amma tchum. Continues the Mishnah. The person was reading a scroll on the stoop in front of the house, and the sefer rolled out of his hand. So he's still holding on to one side of the scroll, but the other side rolled down into Rishus Harabim. He's allowed to roll it back to himself. What if he was reading on top of the roof? Then this galgal sefer miyada, and the same thing happened. The sefer rolled out. The hand gets reached within 10 tefachim to Rishus Harabim. No problem. Just roll it back. However, once it reached 10 tefachim to Rishus Harabim, then you have to leave it. He just turns it over face down and leaves it there. Even if it's just a bit off the ground, it's all the way down, just a needle's width off the ground, can still roll it back. Rav Shimon Aimer, even if it landed on the ground itself, but he's still holding on to the other side, can roll it back. Why? Because it involves kavod of a sefer. And rolling something back in this case is only Issa D'Rabbanan, because let's remember he's still holding on to the object on the other side. It's Issa D'Rabbanan which prevents him from doing so. But if it involves Kisvei HaKodesh, that overrides Issa D'Rabbanan. She'en lecha davar mishum shvus. Any Issa shvus does not withstand, does not override. Omer defnei Kisvei HaKodesh does not oppose the concern of the sanctity of the kavod of the Sfarim, and therefore in this case, although rolling it back entails Issa D'Rabbanan, but since it's in the context of a kavod of Kisvei HaKodesh, Rav Shimon says, you're allowed to do so, roll it all the way back to preserve the kedusha of the sefer. Okay, time for Riv Chazorah of today's daf. We began discussing the machlokes in Rabbi Yehuda about wearing new tefillin on Shabbos, which he found out in the field. According to Rabbi Meir, you can go ahead and wear them back into town. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you cannot. The Gemara tells us we're speaking about tefillin which are not knotted, so there's no kesher there. According to Rabbi Meir, just wrap it on, tie it loosely, and bring it back in. According to Rabbi Yehuda, unless it has a proper knot, it's not considered to be properly wearing the tefillin. Therefore, it doesn't have a din of a malbush. It has a din of a monster like a load and can't be done on Shabbos. What about just tying a bow, which is kosher for mitzvah tefillin? Why can't he do that on Shabbos? So although he can actually tie a proper kesher, a permanent kesher, what about a bow? So according to Meir, he can. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, a bow is considered like a kesher and is a malacha and therefore can't be done on Shabbos. Therefore, he has no way to wear these tefillin back into town. We discussed the halacha of a person who purchases tefillin from one who has not established his expertise. He's not a mumcha. He has to do bedika to establish chazaka, whether it's 2, whether it's 3, depending on the shitas, of what constitutes chazaka. And we learned that in the case where a person encounters some tefillin out in the open, whether it's one pair, whether it's a couple, you wear them in one pair at a time. If there's a sakana on account of the authorities, gzeira of shmad, just cover them up, cover them over, and proceed on your way. If you find svasim krichas, these bundles, which appear too numerous to be carried in one pair at a time for Shabbos will be up, then just leave them there, wait until it gets dark, and then bring them in. If he's concerned about the presence of robbers after nightfall, then according to Tanakama, carry them in 4 amis, less than 4 amis at a time. According to Reb Shimon, rather than do that, which may result in a malacha, line up some friends, pass it from one person to the next, less than 4 amis at a time. The Mishnah concluded with a case of a person who's in desperate need of water. You can go ahead and pass the water to him. Line up some people and pass it from one person to the next. This is machlokes. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you can actually carry it out of the tchum as well. According to Rabban, you can't. What is the pshat Rabbi Yehuda? We have 3 approaches. According to Rabbi Yehuda's approach, we're speaking about water, which never had shvisa. Although the barrel did, but the barrel is buttled to the water. And that's Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, to which the Chacham disagree. Rabbi Yehuda maintains, based on the Brisa, this is speaking about a unique case of a shayara, a group of people traveling who are stranded without water. According to Abai, this applies even to a case of a ordinary person. When it comes to shayara, we allow even further. Even if the chavis and the water were kind of shvisa, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we apply a leniency here, and we're not concerned with the tchum, and we allow it to be carried out to that person even beyond the tchum. Rav Ashi learns it's speaking about something which is hefker. According to Rabbi Yehuda, hefker doesn't have shvisa. Therefore, there's no limit. It's not bound by any tchumen. But according to Rabban, even something of hefker is bound by halachos of tchum and cannot be transported past 2,000 amma.